so much, and thank you for inviting me. Okay, I will be talking about menopause and how it's a hormonal imbalance and how dysbiosis is also an aspect of it. I have no conflicts of interest, as you will see, just talking about pure science. This is a review of 285 articles, as well as 73 articles that I have authored and my books that have been translated in 12 different languages. Now, I'm going to be talking about the secret panic of aging that we all have, and we try to find solutions. And the unspoken agony of vaginal dryness as we're aging, this is what happens, which kind of compromises our sexual relationships. Vaginal atrophy also has these burning sensations that are very uncomfortable. Now, in the pursuit of happiness, women attempt to resolve a physical problem, a psychodynamic roller coaster of aging, by altering the vaginal physique. But vaginal rejuvenation alone is just not enough. Why? Because menopause is a systemic problem. It has to do with hormonal imbalance. It has to do with inflammation and also toxicity. So estrogen deficiency is just only a small aspect of menopause. It's a very complex process. High inflammation will result in emotional apathy. And then you have the testosterone, that is low testosterone, basically below the optimized range or even the normal range. And that will cause boredom and sensations and feelings of emptiness. High cortisol is going to create anxiety and depression. So all those hormones are going to result in actual significant emotional issues. So you can have sadness with anxiety, and you have sadness without anxiety that can be sublimated. So we can actually empower women and have menopause and all the emotional roller coaster of menopause that can be productive, and it can also be sublimated. Now, another problem for menopause is dysbiosis, because hormonal imbalance drives the bad bacteria, and you have the rich and balanced bacteria communities, and you have the poor and unbalanced bacteria communities, and immune disorders and hormonal imbalance that result from that. And as you can see, if you look at the signs and the symptoms of hormonal imbalance and gut inflammation, are pretty much the same. The cramps, the food allergies, the bloating, skin rashes, all very, very similar symptomatology for both. Menopause is hormonal disharmony and dysbiosis. And I want you to see that as a systemic issue, not just something that we can fix one little thing here and one little thing there, and we're going to get it right. Now, the vagus nerve is something that connects the gut with the brain, and it's the bigger nerve of the nervous system. So the gut axis and the brain axis have a two-way communication. And it also, the serotonin that is involved in all kinds of emotional issues, and also emotional disorders like depression and manic depression are made in the gut. So you have basically the immune system being part of the gut and the brain axis. So the two of them are connected. And we also show, we say the expression, I have butterflies in my stomach. So hormonal balance and healthy gut will give you confidence at any age. And this is something that we should be trying to achieve in menopause. Now, everybody talks about healthy diet and exercise, but does it work for everybody? No, it doesn't. Why? Why can menopausal women lose weight? I mean, it's easy to see, but they cannot go to the gym, they diet, but they can't lose weight. Why? Because fat is a systemic problem. And what happens is after the age of 40, everybody's going to have what what we call the visceral fat. Even people that are asleep, and the visceral fat is basically dead. So you can have an IGF deficiency, you go to the gym all day, nothing happens. And so it's not just going to the gym, it's the hormones that make the difference. So too much leptin is a problem, you're starving. Too little leptin, you have hunger. Same thing with insulin. What I would like to kind of stress here is not that the hormones have to be in the average or normal range, because the average person is actually ill. The hormones have to be in the optimized range, and that is why it's so important. So someone talked about, you spoke about the energy and resonance, and so resonance can balance hormones and suppress hunger. So why do we age? It's the lack of proteostasis, the lack of balance, the lack of hormonal balance, the lack of proteostasis. And I've written a book that's called Brainwash. And in the book, I'm kind of showing how sometimes marketing and truth are incompatible. So this is my second book there. I mean, the fourth book, The Rhythm of Youth. I'm writing another book now with Dr. Angela Shimuda, who is sitting right there. And basically how you can go from awkward to in sync through this balancing process and through this resonance process, because resonance creates that balance. And this is the book that is published. So the optimal level of hormones results from resonant communication. And I think I'm following basically on your lecture that can be expanded a little bit more on your lecture. And we've done 73 clinical studies, 740 subjects, and how proteomics and AI resonance can harmonize and optimize protein interaction. And talks. That is, why do we age? Because of toxicity and inflammation. So detoxification is a very important aspect of that. It starts the blood time. So we looked at CRP, and we found a significant reduction of CRP in 650 subjects. And we also looked at metabolic boost, and we found a significant optimization. And you know, you see here that it's 41% plus. But you see, it depends whether we're there. We don't want them to go above the optimal range. We don't want them to be below the optimal range. We want them to be within that optimal range. Not the average range, the optimal range. And that is very different. And resonance basically, we found that it increased energy in older people in 704 subjects. And of course, the cortisol went down. And again, I had 21.92%. But you don't want the cortisol to go below where it's supposed to be the optimal range, because then you can have Addison's disease. So above is a problem, below is a problem. It has to be optimized. We looked at chronological age, and 600 subjects, and 49.7% years, they were down to 30.9. So basically, their optimal range was much, much more fast, and the metabolic age was better. And with that, I'd like to thank you. If you can, that's my WhatsApp. Sorry, the video is not showing very well now. And that's my email if you'd like to contact me with any questions. I'll be very happy to answer all the questions. Thank you.
Thank you.